matchup, I'm going to take the Olaf for myself. On the opposite side, Meteor looks like he's going to go towards that Graves for himself, and I imagine we'll see again this high priority on the likes of Leona, or at least a support here from her.
Yeah, same bans coming in with the Kali, Renekton, and Zoe. Don't think you need to change anything there. You do not want Zika to get any of those two particular champions, and we actually see the Graves and the Leona, and honestly, I really like this from BLG. The Leona from Mark was pivotal to how they were able to just snowball that game so damn much, because again, different to the Gragas, they have, you know, a much more reliable engage when you have a Leona versus someone who needs their flash to realistically catch someone out.
And we're going to see a lot of Leona. Like, in Demacia Championship, she had a 91% presence with a 55% win rate over 40 games. Like, she is a super strong bot lane support, and it's why we're seeing her praised and prioritized so highly. On the opposite side, though, finally eStar have decided, you know what, we want to get something that Rat can operate on. So there we go. The Syndra coming in to pair nicely with Rat as well, providing a little bit more of that killer instinct opportunity too. I would like to see, again, this Fortune I think works super well. The Jhin does as well, where you can look to, especially with this Leona pick, punish very heavily in this early game, try and set this Kai'Sa behind, and then if it's in the right position, she won't have as much of an impact in these mid-game fights.
Yeah, and they're actually going to go and try and take away the Jhin. They knew that they were going to get banned away pretty significantly if they let that go, so I like this development from eStars. They take the pick they want, they force BLG to now pick their AD carry early, and now they can start heavily focusing bans in either the top or the mid lane. They can choose either.
I imagine it'd be mid lane, LeBlanc already coming through. Orianna, I'm sure it's going to be next to follow. Just trying to get Zika off of some of these assassins that he's worked very well on. We talked about it heavily already. Now, there is an opportunity here, if Zika wants to go back towards something like the Sylas, because when you're looking at a lot of these close quarter fights with the likes of the Kai'Sa, with the likes of this Olaf as well, Sylas can get a lot off in these team fights, and you've already got a pretty dive-heavy composition if you really want to, and you can look towards that Leona to pair up nicely with you, and maybe pick up something for BLG in the top lane that can facilitate that style as well.
Interesting enough, we're actually not seeing the Thresh ban coming in here for BLG. They decided to opt for the Alistar and the Maokai instead. Gragat's going to be banned away again by eStar. They are going to take that away. They do not want BLG to have a significant tanky boy up in that top side who can just farm as easily as he likes. But overall, I feel like the Orianna is still available for BLG. This feels like the smarter call. Please don't put Zika back on the Twisted Fate. I beg of you.
Yeah, I mean, okay, we're going to see the Twisted Fate. I was going to say, look, I think the Sylas could have worked really well here. It's been a Zika favourite for a while. But we're not going to see that. Instead, he's going back towards the Twisted Fate. Now, you've got a bunch of CC in the bottom lane. Easy setup. You can look to play around this. Meteor as well, with the gold card there, can look to set up and facilitate mid lane plays. They've got a strong 2v2. Not as strong as the opposite side for eStar, but at least there's something there if they can make it work. So overall, BLG still have the tools. So if this is again a swing and a miss for this Twisted Fate, I'm out. Like, I don't want to see this touched by Zika for the rest of the split, because their team fight, and when they have this easy to manage control mage in the mid lane, seems to have worked for them. I don't know whether they're moving completely away from this.
Honestly, what I want to see here now from Zika to really kind of see how they were able to work this is more early game pressure when you get your destiny. The power of Twisted Fate to be able to just make a 3v3 into a 4v3 in bot side, or a 2v2 into a 3v2 in top side, is what makes him so powerful, and how he's so annoying with a literal point and click stun as well. So this is what I want to see from Zika coming in. As we see now, it's actually going to be Shen and
that's the
Kennen
problem.
Locked in.
It's the Shen. The Shen for Xiaoxi. Now you go, alright, cool, Twisted Fate's going there. Well, I'm going to follow you right on up there with that Stand United. It makes it so much more difficult now to operate in this capacity. Also, Shen does very well specifically against Leona, because you're able to stop the follow-up CC after the Zenith Blade, and also against aiming for those fourth shots. So overall, Xiaoxi's picked up a really smart pick here, which can do quite well against the draft. But looking at the full composition here for eStar, we're still seeing a very similar style to what we saw them try and run for game number 1, which is, hey, let's try and get these long-range engages coming through from the Syndra, set up for the flanks from ZS, and see if we can make things happen that way. On the opposite side, though, for BLG, again, you can go towards a 1-3 or a 1-4 and try and use the pressure created from both the Jace and this Twisted Fate to pick off the squishier members of BLG. Or sorry, of eStar.
We are locked and loaded, ladies and gentlemen, for our third and final game of this first series of Week 2, Day 1, 2021 Spring Split. We'll see now, can BLG ride that momentum from Game 2, or will eStars find that cog to kind of, get it back working in the bot side? Curious to see how both teams go with this. Overall, though, I still think that this series has a lot to be desired. I think Game 2 was great. I hope it's a repeat of Game 2 for either side. I do not want a repeat of Game 1. That was too long for this meta.
Yeah, it was long and sloppy. Honestly, like, no one really looked like it. You had a winner. No one really won. But now we get to see, at least in Game 3.
No matter who wins, it's like Alien versus Predator. No matter who wins,
exactly.
We lose. But But I want to maybe, again, we could see a bit of an engage coming the bot side. Aiming was very, very powerful on this Jhin in the last game. Let's see if he can replicate that success coming into Game 3.
eStar stacking to the bush here. It looks like eStar are going to go for a late invade, especially when you've got an Olaf here. He does very well on these later invades, and you can try and catch people out as they set up. And so, is ES going to back and go topside? Well, it looks like they may not actually try and go for this late invade.
Just checking to make sure there was no level 1 shenanigans coming out from the side of BLG. I like the idea from it. We did see it from I believe it was game 1 today, where we had the Olaf invade coming in from Meteor. So I like the awareness from eStar. They obviously scrim or practice against BLG and know that this is a tactic they tend to look towards if they are, feeling confident in the champions at their level 1. Which, in fairness, with a Twist of Fate and, a Jace and a Leona, I'd be feeling pretty confident too.
Actually, speaking of that bot lane, you can see that Aiming is opted for Fleet Footwork and has also gone for the Time Warp Tonic and Biscuits. Like, he's ready for the all-in potential from Rat and Shousey, especially when they hit that level 6 mark. Like, this lane takes on a very different look when you get that Killer Instinct activated, because the big thing for Rat here is if you have the Leona try and engage, if you have the Shen try and engage, it's very easy for Leona to counteract that engage, get on towards Rat, and make sure that the trade goes somewhat evenly. But when you hit that level 6, trying to lock down this Kai'Sa as Mark is very, very difficult. And the burst potential, if you can fly past the minions, get a solo with Captain Rain onto Aiming, makes this a very potent bot lane at that level 6.
For Aiming and Mark, they will unfortunately lose that race to level 2 we've so often seen in that bot side, as both the AD carries try to shove as hard as they possibly can, but like you said, with the Acathian Rain, it's far easier for someone like a Kai'Sa to be able to push that a lot harder, a lot faster. And both junglers just clearing out their jungles. They kind of get as much of a clear as they possibly can. Rat using this newfound priority in the bot side to gain some vision and do some tracking of Meteor.
Yeah, so they will spot out Meteor, which is going to give a lot of confidence here towards Irma, as he wants to try and shove in, get this bounce back off the wave, and maybe look for an early back here. There is potential here if you wanted to try and go for something, but not going to go for it just yet. Still needs a little bit more gold.
Still needs a little time. Plenty of sustain as well. Got Biscuits, got some Corrupting Potion. Lots of it for him to be able to stay in that lane. With the Scuttles now spawning, we actually see Hacker just kind of sitting on the Scuttle right now, waiting for it to spawn, just waiting for it to kind of pop up. Knows that he is almost certainly going to walk into Meteor now, as they had full vision of him, but Scuttle takes a little longer to take down when you do not have any inherent CC for it, as Hacker just smites that one away. Irma just escorting him nicely to it as well. There's a bit of a 2v2 in this top side as Hacker wants that second Scuttle. He's getting a little greedy, but honestly I feel like BLG kind of just have to see this. As I say that though, I didn't look at the map. They actually have BuBu walking down, making sure that if they are going to try and contest it, they have some kind of a priority.
Yeah, and the big thing here is that Zika will have TP. So Zika can actually teleport in. He can go to that ward that BuBu just pushed. So I actually think this will go to Meteor. Hacker, respectfully, it looks like going to back away from this one, especially as Zika is going to be in base. So Meteor will get a scuttle for himself. Looking at BLG as a whole here, though, I want to start looking at kind of the options that are available to them as we get towards the later portion of the game. Because we talked about, hey, look, you've got some great split push you can go towards, specifically with Zika. But even if you want to opt in towards this 1-4, with Zika being the main split pusher, you've got a lot of range on BLG with the Accelerated Shock Blast and anti-flourishes as well. Like, it can be pretty difficult for eStar if you're not getting these the abilities off of Syndra, the Scatter the Weak, to try and close the gap onto BLG, you're going to have a tough time locking these guys down. So it'd be curious to see how BLG operate in these team fights, especially to get to the later point where they can just keep eStar an arm's length and then open up with all the long range poke that they have available to themselves.
Curious to see now what they want to do with Zika. He's almost level 6. He's just kind of establishing some vision control towards his bot side. Has dropped a ward on the Raptor camp of Hacker as well. So again, just gaining information and making sure they have it. Actually, actually, he's going to get it anyway, which is like a little unfortunate. But I actually quite like that little play for. Oh, he doesn't. So this was actually a little bit of an outplay, and I'm getting too excited for what it was because it was so damn minor. But Zika walked up while the mid lane was empty and pretended to ward on top of the camp to basically bait out. So you saw a load of pings coming out from the side of eStars going like, oh, he warded here, we'll know if they just use the sweeper. And then he was able to kind of bait out so they actually gained a little bit from it. I'm getting far too excited for exactly what it was because, again, super minor, but I just love those little mind games you see. It's like misinformation is still information.
And look, now, though, I want to see Zika do more than just ward out a lane.
Oh, they're going to go in towards the spot side, but there is a Destiny available as they use that one there. Gold card is a little bit delayed, but it is a perfectly timed two-man gank in that bot side. Meteor and Zika comboing nicely as first blood to BLG.
Gorgeous setup. And as well, Zika, I like the way he's willing to give up CS here in this mid lane to make that play. Because honestly, getting this bot lane ahead has been the go-to and the big game plan. And also setting Chelsea behind, like trying to stop this level 6 from coming in as much as you can is going to be really strong. And making those plays happen before the Stand United is available. So nice job here from BLG to shut down that opportunity. Although Irma now still hovering around, does have the support of Chelsea in this mid lane, so maybe they want to try and make something happen, but Zika's playing very far back.
Not going to allow it. Still has flash and heal available to him, so should be totally fine in terms of keeping himself safe. We're going to see Irma just try and get a reset off. Dragon is available as a Cloud Drakes right now, so it's actually one of the most difficult ones to take early. It does a hell of a lot of damage. Meteor, though, level 6, now invading onto this blue side and trying to get himself a cheeky little steal. Should be able to take this one pretty much scot-free.
And this is really, really good for Zika as well, because the blue buff is going to give the opportunity for Irma to shove that wave back against Zika, who's got those minion dematerializers. So not having blue means he's got to be more conservative with his mana and won't be able to answer for Zika roams like this.
This is going to be difficult, though. It is still a cannon. That Slicing Maelstrom is still absolutely massive. They go in, gold card is locked, minion wave is there. There it is, flashing with a Slicing Maelstrom. They do get the thing off, and this is what I was talking about. This is why it's so dangerous. They trade 1 for 1, but still very, very risky there. They do, however, deny a huge amount of wave and experience to that cannon, so they're just trying to get BLG a little further ahead.
Irma, though, can shove in this mid lane and deny not quite as much, but practically the same. May even be able to get a turret play for himself. So in the grand scheme of things, honestly, eStar come out on top, especially if you can get this turret plate here for Irma. It sucks that ZS is going to be set behind, but Olaf can do just as much with that gold, especially, as we said, Gore Drinker, massive spike for Hacker here. So if he's able to get towards that, and the quicker he gets towards it, the more impactful that pickup will be for him.
And speaking of Olaf, should be able to take this Rift Herald pretty damn easily. That being said, though, there are 2 BLG members walking over to this now, so they might be able to kind of get him down. Chelsea is here, though. He's the first one to roam up. You can see the bot lane of BLG shoved in first, are now moving towards it. BLG does sidestep a nice little Scatter the Weak, jumps in, forces the flash out of Irma. Zika with the gold guard primed. Means they can't really just walk into this. Chelsea does not have his Stand United just yet. And that is going to be a thank you very much for starting it. We'll take it from here from eStars, or from BLG, and a little bit overzealous there. Felt like they just didn't have the pressure in the lanes they needed, especially not in top lane.
Exactly. I mean, getting that kill means that ZS behind, but
Rat gets a perfect cleanse to stop Zika, and I am so glad to see this from Zika. Zika has learned from game 1, realizes that he's not just going to be a split push, he has to be making early plays around the map, getting summoners, getting spells, getting people, you know, basically getting the other lanes fed while he just kind of takes a little bit of a hit.
But that's the thing, it's not, Chelsea hasn't been opened up as much to try and have an impact in this mid lane. If you cast your mind back to game number 1, it was Chelsea who was able to go towards mid, get this kill onto Zika, put him behind, make it very difficult for him to operate. That hasn't been able to happen here for eStar as we get the engage.
Yeah, we do have a curtain call to start it all off. Normally it's the thing to finish people, but it has been used to start this one. Zika gets scattered the week back. Dragon goes over to eStars to get themselves out. However, they did lose the cleanse off Irma and pretty hefty chunk of time on that mid lane and bot lane. So Shousey here just making sure that they don't gain any kind of a push.
I'm going to call that ambitious from Mark. Like, he really tried to set that up, but when there's 4 members there and you're too strong before the rest of BLG can even get in range, it ain't going to go well.
Oh, they tried to use the Kennen engage with the Stand United, and that's a big cooldown, only at level 6, so BLG perfectly times the knockback, gets himself back into safety, is going to have to use his TP to get himself back into lane, but it is a cannon wave, so we shouldn't miss too much.
But again, Rat now, he's got to completely abandon this bot side. Kai'Sa, for fear of Leona, cannot step up here. Meteor going to show up as well. So bot tower is going to be picked up here off of this play. So nice job from Bilibili to put that pressure down, call these resources out of eStar, and actually pick up a win for BLG in the long run.
Shousey just a little bit too trigger happy, I feel. You know, probably could have waited for that knockback to be kind of, you know, used and then maybe go for something afterwards if there was still potential for a chase. There's definitely a lot more to that play there than just immediately ult once the chase kind of goes in. But now with that happening, first tower goes over to BLG. They are going to try and use the second tower to get a second push, but Shousey is there and Shousey will deny any such shenanigans.
And I kind of feel bad for ZS because his strengths when he was on IG Youth were certainly more so about like playing around where Shun was going, like helping the jungler, playing much more kind of like almost like a Zoom-esque, you know, weak side top laner, but certainly like trying to support the jungle in other respects. Hacker doesn't play that style. Hacker's not like Shun, who's going to go aggressive, invade, get vision control, take a bunch of camps, and then look towards ganks. So it feels like the wave manipulation and the way that ZS has been able to get these advantages in LDL just isn't translating as well towards the LPL, and you can see it here as well. He's getting outclassed by Bilibili. It's not looking good. 20 CS lead essentially for Bilibili when in a matchup like this, it's slightly Jace favored, but not this heavily Jace favored.
Well, it is that. It can be that heavily Jace favored when they put in so much time and resources in you. But I agree, it has been ZS kind of left to the wayside to kind of suffer while Bilibili has been given ample amount of money and time, and now they're trying to see if they can put Bilibili behind. But this is for Rat. This isn't for ZS. Like you said, they're just trying to keep Rat relevant in this game as he's already starting to fall behind in terms of the race for the items.
Yeah, but he's still, like, I mean, he's got the kill ups, pretty even CS now, picking up some turret plates for himself. He'll back now, he'll finish off the Gale Force as well. It's just that with the amount of gold that's been funneled into aiming in regards to these turret plates, he's going to be damn far ahead, because essentially that entire bot lane was shared with aiming. Now we're getting the majority of top lane shared with aiming as well. And Rat has got, yeah, 3 plates, but Bilibili is helping clear out these waves and shutting down the opportunity for eStar to answer back for a lot of these plays.
Bilibili is going to walk a little bit too far forward. There is no more minions though, so need to be very, very careful. Twisted Fate going to use the Destiny as well. There's the Killer Instinct to try and follow up. They're trying to catch on the Bilibili, who has got the Stand United to keep him alive. Hacker goes in, gets caught out by the wild cards, and Zika, nicely done. ZS though has to flash away. He will not be trading this one 2-for-1. They flash in, they get the cleanse. Zika goes off. Rat doesn't really have the mana. The Spirit's Refuge was a little bit far off, but overall it's BLG who kind of come out on top in the initial kind of setup. They're able to defend their bot lane a little longer, and they're the ones who pick up the extra gold.
Yeah, so essentially your entire tower up the TP. Oh no. Oh
Double
god.
Double TP, and there's ZS. He's now in trouble. They get 2 kills. Rat has no mana. Rat has no flash. He has cleanse. He's going over to Big Mama Irma to try and keep himself alive. Double cleanse. What does it mean? It means that they will be able to pick up Bilibili as a kill. Irma trying to just kite himself out of this. Goes golden from Zika as Meteors are pushing in on top of the eStar mid laner. It ends up being 3 kills to 1 in that secondary play in favor of BLG.
And look at the gold lead reflecting this. 4,000 gold for BLG. 10 seconds until this dragon is going to be up there as well for BLG. And Amy's still pushing. Amy has just said, you know what? PvE is nice. Getting some kills is great. Do you know what I love? free gold from towers, from killing minions. He has got that Gale Force. He's gotten so much standing gold. Like, the 1500 gold there that's coming from these turret plates, most of that is going to be on that chip.
Yeah, and it's a free dragon as well because they had that pressure in the bot side. So you're looking at a dragon timer reset, one apiece now. It is an Ocean Soul to be next up on the line, but 4,000 gold, a little bit shy of it. This is a tough early game for eStars, and I hope they can start to kind of fix that one up, and I hope that it's, you know, just a little bit of a bad kind of matchup as such in the bot lane and in the top lane, because right now we're seeing a trend of eStars not really having the best of early games.
It's hard. I mean, especially when Rat hasn't been having the best of times in the laning phase. Xiaoxi is locked down to this bottom lane, which we talked about is like critical for eStar, is unlocking Xiaoxi from the bot side. But anytime Xiaoxi does leave lane, Rat's being punished so heavily for it. Amy and Mark making sure that they're like zoning him off of turrets and waves. Zika being able to pressure with his Destiny as well. It just means there's very little options for eStar here. And again, BLG, this is what we came to expect from them when we saw them way back in spring 2020. This was the slow macro map play that shut down so many of their opponents, and this is what we wanted to see continue. But when we got to Chinese New Year, BLG started to fall apart, but we're seeing glimpses of what was that great BLG from the first 3 weeks of spring 2020.
Yeah, as we said, the LCK team, that is the that is the most BM I've ever seen someone use a Jhin ultimate. Just like, I'm just gonna keep it on.
Yeah.
Oh, they can't even go for it because Rat's dead now, and they pick themselves up a kill. They rotate from bot side, picking up tier 2 all the way through the jungle, and now Xiaoxi's in a little bit of trouble. Biu does get ignited as here comes ZS. They do pop the Destiny and the Slicing Melter, but he has to back away immediately. He was not in position to be able to continue that chase. And this is, again, slowly but surely, BLG finding the small advantage. Oh, flash in, aiming will die. It's a nice little pickle there by Irma, but he gets flashed on himself. He does not have the health bar to survive underneath this dive potential of BLG. The Ragnarok is still rocking, and this mid lane turret is still standing, but for how much longer?
It's not going to be for very long. One more auto is going to do it. Xiaoxi gets taken very low, but again, BLG using the map state so well, pushing both side lanes, means that then when ZS wants to join in for this fight, he's forced to use the teleports. You're getting summoner spells out, you're getting the kills, and you're getting the towers. This is what makes BLG, when they're on, so beautiful to watch, is not only are they getting what you expect them to get, it's all those little advantages that they also add.
Great move there from Irma, recognizing he had the damage, the DPS to be able to break him down. He did have the Shen Stan United as well, but unfortunately the shield just not enough to keep him going in this particular skirmish. Let's have a look at the teams right now, looking at everything kind of going on. 6,000 gold lead. Zika like looking Zika's very strong in this Twisted Fate. Yeah,
Zika's 4-1-4.
He's honestly looking very, very strong.
And obviously this is what I wanted to see in game 1, what I expected to see from game number 1. Like, this looks like a much cleaner BLG operating in the manner that I want to see Twisted Fate use. Off the side lane, creating pressure, using the Destiny to create numbers advantages that draw out resources like the summoner spells, or else just flashes or ults out of their opponents. And BLG are using those little advantages to create further and further ones.
Again, another zoning ultimate coming out here from aiming. They are going to lose a turret on the top side as Irma was able to split push that one down pretty damn effectively. He will now rotate down to try and join his team. Just over a minute until that dragon spawns. It will only be the second dragon for either of these teams. So Dragon Soul not really on either of the team's minds as of yet. Rift Herald dropped down into the mid lane to try and create some pressure. But be very careful, BLG. Those Scatter the Weeks can hurt you. This should just be enough to crack down. Aiming though with that Gale Force, able to keep himself alive. Mark jumps in with the Xenoblade. They do drop down the Solar Flare as well, but now look at aiming. He's in a very strong position to be able to keep himself safe while also doing DPS. Mid lane turret does fall from the Rift Herald charge, and overall eStars got what they wanted.
They got the mid lane tower, but this dragon is still there in 40 seconds, so it's not like they can force mid lane priority with that Rift Herald anymore. And great job there from aiming as well to avoid the pressure that was coming through. So everyone backs away, collects these waves in the side lane. That big wave top did die, although it looks like Yubi will be able to pick up the remnants of it there as it pushes in. While the remainder of BLG are getting control of this river once again and making it very difficult for eStars to enter.
I'm glad to see this. Like I said, I was not excited once this, or you probably heard it in my groan. I was not excited by Zika locking in this to fate. I've been pleasantly surprised because this is what I want to see. I want you to see you using the Destiny Gate to get into different areas of the map to try and open up different lanes. Yes, you're down 30 CS, but that doesn't matter because your team has gotten ahead. You've gotten the lanes into a perfectly nice situation. That being said, though, ZS is just creeping on top of this bush. No ward on him.
And the fact for Zika that he has the likes of this Zonya's Hourglass available means he can play very aggressive. Doesn't have the Destiny available, but he's free to flash in, get on towards Rat or Irma, and set up the rest of BLG to take them down while still having that safety. But BLG spread out here, not quite getting the poke they would like.
Here we go. There's the curtain call coming down. They have the scat of the week, and they are just going to try and keep ZS away from this initial fight. So they haven't got the finisher now. No execute going to be available for this fight in terms of aiming's ultimate. He has not got flash, so he is in a very, very tricky pickle if he does get caught out. Has the collector, has himself a Gale Force, so is definitely a primary target for the side of eStars. But eStars are not pulling the trigger just yet. They're trying to get ZS into a good position. Zika, though, needs to be careful. Doesn't exactly know where the cannon is.
The longer they can poke and prod, the better, and they're able to whittle down the health bars of eStars, but it's not quite working out in their favor just yet. And eStar have managed to shove them back out of river, so now they're the ones in control, but ZS still not quite able to find the positioning that he'd like. So watch these accelerated shock blasts, watch these deadly flourishes. That's what they want, landing onto key members like Irma, ZS, or Rat.
Dragon has been started. Zika pushed in that bot side. Meteor went off to take himself a Gromp, but Hacker needs to be careful. Like you said, being poked down a little bit. This Dragon down to about 3000 HP before it resets.
So
Zika's behind them. They have full damage. There's a solar flare on top of it. They're going to try and jump straight in on top of the... But ZS jumps in on top of aiming, and he is dead. The Dragon goes in favor of BLG, but the ensuing fight looks like it might be in favor of eStars. If they can just get down some more health bars, they unfortunately haven't been able to deal the damage, and they are getting turned on by BLG. Irma in the wrong spot of the map means that he is going to fall to Zika's TF, and that is going to be the ace for one in favor of BLG.
It is BEA beautiful from BLG. It looks so good from eStars to start things off. ZS doing the correct job of getting onto the back line, but the rest of eStar aren't able to follow up because of how deep he's had to go for aiming. And from that point forward, BLG are able to split the bill. Meteor moves in, he takes zone control in the midst of eStar. You're going to see it here as he comes back out of the pit. So you've got ZS, who goes very far forward, but with Zika threatening the backline alongside Meteor, there's not really much follow-up apart from Rat, and then Meteor's able to come through here and splits up eStar. There are multiple focuses in different directions, and the long range from Bew, same with this gold cards and the CC coming through from Zika, means that eStar just aren't quite able to finish off this fight.
Yeah, that one looked like it could have. Had this been an equal game with equal items in terms of, gold and everything, that felt like that fight goes in eStar's favor. But having that 6,000 gold buffer, having the fact that, you didn't take a huge amount of tanking on the Dragon, it just kind of all went a little bit awry. And I gotta call out Rat. His cleanse was too early. He cleansed immediately onto the solar flare, but then there was nobody on him, so there was no danger. He cleanses and then gets gold carded straight after that, so his DPS is just completely nullified. Just feels like a little bit of an unfortunate waste on his particular part, but overall it is still advantage to BLG. They come out with the Dragon, they come out with an 8,000 gold lead, or just about. Solar flare lands. It's going to be traded for a Ragnarok, as Mark just trying to... Mark looks good on this Leona. Again, this is something he's very, very comfortable on, and I feel like going forward into the season, this is going to be something that BLG are going to want to keep Mark on.
Certainly, I mean, it was LGD style as well. It was Mark, Euron, Leona. Looked very good on champions like the Lux as well, but Enchanters aren't quite going to be in the meta for a little bit. But either way, this is the champion that he has looked the best on, and why they've been prioritizing it. Like, second pick pretty much the last 2 games. It makes sense.
Yeah. A quick look down onto the items. You actually see, the one thing that's very interesting to me, you actually see a QSS on top of Xiaoxi's Shen. he just kind of wants to keep himself relatively safe because he knows he's not a tanky boy. He hasn't finished up an item just yet, and he knows that he might be in a little bit of trouble. As I say that, ZS goes a little bit too far deep, gets stunned up, and this is the power of the Destiny Gate. Now we can start shooting fish in a barrel as the sniper starts hitting Shouty 100% all the time. Tries to squeeze past Rat to get a last shot onto Irma, but Rat now down below a third of his health, and they're pinging Baron.
I love the confusion there. It's like Rat's like, I have to tank the last shot. I don't want to tank any of that, as everyone else is scuttling to be behind the Kai'Sa. But I mean, if everyone is going to be running for the hills on eStar, it's an easy pickup for BLG, and you're starting to see the problems with the cannon. When you don't have a flash, it's very difficult to close that gap, especially with the amount of Gale forces on this team. Everyone having a dash gives them so much mobility, which is a nightmare for this cannon.
Trying to get some exit kills here. Baron goes in favor of BLG, but it's a split fight. There's a wall between the two. It's kind of different people going different directions. Mark forced to flash, uses the solar flare, but it's a little bit wide on everybody. And it looks like BLG should be able to get themselves out and safe with all 5 Baron buffs intact.
And a perfect timing as well. 1:15 until this Dragon's up. They reset, come back out, spend that lovely gold that they picked up over the last few fights, plus that Baron. They can easily get mid-priority and then just shove in, go for Dragon after. But again, great job from Zika here, reading, hey look, everyone from BLG has managed to back away from ZS. We can turn this, Destiny's in, and it's an easy pickup. Like, this is just so well executed from BLG. And unfortunately for eStar, they haven't quite been able to get their ducks aligned to find these big team fights. We saw it maybe come to fruition at that last Dragon fight, but the goal gap was just too big.
Yeah, this cannon pick's kind of been a little bit cursed, you know, overall in the series. It has not won a single game just yet. It's 0-2, could potentially go to 0-3. And we'll see now with Irma and Bew just kind of feeling each other out. There is the scatter of the week, and enough damage, not quite. They are going to use the Shen Stand United. They will be able to pick that one. Ugh, goes over to Shouty, kicks himself up a kill. Not the best target to get that kill, but it does delay this split push and this 1-3-1 setup they were trying to get on for BLG.
The thing is, that was also a bounty going the way of Shouty, which adds a little bit of salt to the wound as well, but the split push isn't stopping. Twisted Fate's still in this top lane. Zeke can still keep pressure here. BLG in a position to roam towards that bot side, and ZS is trying to commit towards this bot side to get some control, but Irma doesn't have TP. Like, this is still a numbers advantage BLG.
Again, we saw this in the last game as well, where you saw the 2 solo laners from eStar just going down towards that bot side, overstaying their welcome, just giving up too much on the map.
They're giving up 2 inhibitors to go towards Dragon. Like, this isn't even Soul. This is to stop Soul point. Like, this is so much worse. Like,
yeah, they just lost they've lost so much. No, I don't. I've got to feel the same way, to be perfectly honest. And they just completely opened up the base. And yes, you're stopping the dragon stackings, but that's not the win condition for BLG anymore. They've now cracked open your base. And with the sheer amount of just long-range poke you have with the Jhin, with the Twisted Fate, and of course the Jace, it's just very difficult for you to try and defend anything right now.
And think about it. I mean, you've got that 1-3-1, right? Well, now you stick Bew mid or top, same with Zika mid or top, and you get the other 3 members down to this bot side. Now you've got super creeps pouring in your top, your mid lane, being escorted by these baroned up BLG. Now, it'll go off in 20 seconds, but still, like, this is so difficult for eStars to try and defend against when already that split push was tearing you apart.
Yeah, felt like they just kind of made a call and had to stick to their guns. They got the tower, they got the dragon, but they lost 3 towers and 2 inhibitors in the process. So definitely not what you want to be seeing. It looks like they're going to go for a bit of a 1-4 kind of setup with Twisted Fate escorting minions into the mid lane and the rest of Bilibili down into this bot side. So Bew looking to just, like I said, we just pepper them. You can just keep throwing in these small little bits of damage. You don't have to put yourself in harm's way. They have to go at you. They have to run at you. And if you can just keep yourself at arm's length, you're going to win.
And there's nothing you can do here. Zika shoved in mid lane, so now he's coming across just to join them as they start to whittle down this bot lane turret. And it's that slow grind from BLG. This is what they were famous for in 2020, was their victories were very slow paced, very much a case of we're going to choke you out, strangle, take everything on the map. And we're seeing it right now once again, that even with this New Year's resolution shaking things up, still the old BLG.
So BLG still trying to go as slowly as possible. Zika, I almost felt like he walked himself into that start of the week. That could have been disastrous, but Super Minions now on the top side. They haven't really been able to do a huge amount of... The waves are a little bit off. They're not quite synced up with the bot side, so it's very difficult for them to try and catch a numbers advantage against eStars. They are going to try and go for it one more time. Baron up in a minute 40, Dragon up in 2:45. There's not really any kind of global objective. As I say that, though, ZS gets jumped on and actually ends up getting a kill. So Kai'Sa picks up the Graves, but they've lost themselves their last inhibitor turret. Inhibitors are now all exposed, and if they lose this inhibitor, it will be double super minions in all lanes. Xiaoxi nicely done with the Spirit's Refuge, keeping himself safe, but now double super minions in all lanes means that that kill means very little.
Yeah, and I'm delighted that eStar got that last dragon, because now they've no inhibs left, and there's a Baron in the minute. So they've definitely sold out this game with that call. But yeah, from this point forward, back, reset, BLG, go over towards that Baron area. They have to pick it up, and from that point forward, you've got double super creeps going in every single lane. You can handily just have them collapse at the same time. And from that point forward, it becomes so difficult for eStar, especially when they don't really have any sort of wave clear to manage this. And it only gets 10 times worse with the super creeps and the Barons.
Well, super creeps will be there, available and ready to go for BLG when either of these objectives spawn, so there's going to be even more pressure coming in. Inhibitors will... They're not that in sync, I can tell you that now on the terms of the timers on the left-hand sides, as the bot one was taken much after the first two were taken, so don't take that as a correct assumption, but they still have plenty of super minions to be able to kind of shove into this, and now Baron spawning in 13 seconds. I feel like this is free for BLG, like eStars can't leave their base.
I didn't even spot that inhibitor timer. It's like an inhibitor timer for ants. I was like, what is that? It's so tiny.
You want ants? This is how you get ants.
Well, yeah, look, BLG, they're clearing it. They're just doing their thing. Here goes Baron. I don't know. I don't know what you're trying to do. Here's eStar. You're 9,000 gold behind. There's a dragon a minute. I don't think the game is maybe even going to last much longer than that.
Yeah, you got one last team fight, that's it, but you don't have a flash now onto your cannon, who had tried to just catch out Zika. Zika does not necessarily need his flashes, he has the rapid fire cannon now, so those gold cards have that little bit of extra annoying range, even though he is a mage, and this is going to be the walk-in. I feel like for BLG, you just need to escort the minions, Baron them up, and that's it, it's GG. There's nothing really much you can do. You don't even have the Slicing Maelstrom available right now.
Look, this is what I mean. Just... creeps are streaming in. You can't clear them out. They're just going to take the towers by themselves, and all the BLG are really doing is just helping.
Yeah, we can see they're aiming. Forced to actually cancel his ultimate as the two inhibitors in mid lane and top lane do respawn, and quickly taken away as well. These minions are just becoming harder and harder to kill. They're going to lose one Nexus tower. Going to lose their another inhibitor. BLG, like we said, slow, methodical, and now they finally pull the trigger. They go in with Mark taking down the Syndra. He goes golden for just a few seconds to get the turret aggro off him. He will eventually fall, though, but it's all to naught. They can't really do anything here. UB will be able to stay alive. No, he won't, actually. He will just about die. 3v3, there is a potential for a turnaround here as Xiaoxi just popped down the Spirit's Refuge. Aiming is able to take one down, but it's aiming with the triple kill. Able to finish out the game, and they will finish out the series 2-1 BLG.
Great job from BLG coming into this. I didn't know exactly how BLG was going to operate, how all the pieces of this jigsaw were going to fit together, but certainly they look very, very clean. Mark taking up the role of initiator. You got Zika, who is able to bring in a lot of different ways for BLG to play, and certainly Meteor, this slow, methodical shot calling, making sure they are eking out every bit of gold, every bit of resources from the enemy team in any play that they take. This is a BLG that looks primed to take over like they did at the start of spring in 2020.
Yeah, looks solid. They had a bit of a slow and mistake-riddled game in the first one. They brought that back with an absolute vengeance in the second. And BLG, they'll take that win. It's a 2-1. You take the W there. And, you know, like, at the end of the day, you've got a better score record than the two top teams from last year. So you're doing well at the start of the split.
Honestly, I think with the current roster that BLG have, they could end up finishing pretty high in that top 8. It was more a case of like, how does this roster end up working together? And with the way that we've just seen it operate here, it's looking pretty damn strong. There was obviously that big caveat of game number 1, but certainly game 2 and game 3. And with how damn strong Aiming is looking, this is looking terrifying. Like Aiming's come into the LPL is just like, all right, I'm here, boots down the door, shoves every 80 carry out of the way. Is like, you got to take note. And that's what I love when we get some of these teams and we get to see just what these players are capable of.
Yeah, and I think for Aiming as well, like, yes, you say he comes in, boots down the door. ADC isn't exactly a strong pool of talent in the LPL, so he actually has an opportunity to be able to turn around and say, I am a top LPL carry, and I am the difference maker between having me and not having me. Could be playoffs, top 4, worlds. We don't know. It's a very long year, of course. Overall, BLG is still going to be happy, though, with the result. eStar, I don't think they can be sad. I think this is a lot to work on, though.
Yeah, there's a huge amount to work on. I mean, just from individual laning for the likes of Rack and Shousey not falling as far behind. When you look at the top side as well, ZS very much struggling in the laning portion of the game. So these are things that you definitely need to try and fix, because if you're already starting, 3 steps behind your opponent when you get to those mid-game fights, it's not going to help out. However, there are some bright spots on this team, like Irma specifically, I think did a fantastic job in the mid lane, while the rest of the lanes were kind of burning down around him. And we're still seeing that in certain situations, Shousey, if he's allowed to operate his game plan and able to get out from the spot side, can have a big influence over the game.
Yeah, BLG having another very good game, as he had one in game 2, and now obviously in game 3. Definitely doing a lot with that Jace, and I feel like BLG having red side all 3 games, it kind of played into their hand of like, well, if we just give a counter lane to one of our solo laners, we're kind of okay with that, and secure the Leona as early as possible, and we're golden. So I feel like most teams, if they want to try and maybe take down BLG, I'd be curious to see how their draft changes when they're now forced onto potentially more blue side games.
And this is the thing, like, when I came into this, I was expecting the draft to be fairly focused around the mid-jungle 2v2 from BLG. And Meteor has always looked strongest when he's playing through that mid lane. And I specifically thought, like, we saw it at the beginning when he was playing around Fofo, and then I thought again when we'd see him play pretty heavily around Zika. But instead, he's actually teetering down a lot more towards this bottom side of the map and facilitating Mark and aiming. So I'm really hoping that we get to see that not only can we have Meteor play towards this bot side of the map, but they are able to bring in multiple different styles, multiple facets of what they want to do in these early games. Because if you've got Zika who can bring out like the likes of the Zoe or even the Silas and those mid lane assassins that require a little bit more babysitting, cool. Let's get Meteor. Let's get the roam from Mark towards that mid lane, which is what he did a lot on LGD to support Shie. Or we can still go, no, we're all in on this aiming hype train. Let's just keep playing this style. So I think what makes BLG and what has kind of filled me with a lot of hope for this team is that there are multiple different ways to play out this team, and it's not like they're going to be just driven in towards one specific style.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and I actually think looking at the kind of again, very, very small sample size that we have right now, I'm curious to see how BLG do against someone like EDG. So I still feel like maybe your top 4 teams are going to be Top Esports, JDG, Suning, and IG. Maybe WE there as well, depends on how things go. But I'm curious to see about, like, those kind of middle of the pack, should be playoffs, maybe not, depends on how they kind of go. I want to see how those two teams kind of collide and see who is kind of coming up. Because again, EDG on day 1, they didn't have a great victory. They got the dub, but it wasn't amazing. And this is the kind of, victories that I kind of want to see, like, right, that sets up for the bigger mid-game clashes, or mid-table clashes, excuse me.
Yeah, and I think a thing that kind of alleviates a little bit of that concern for me in this game specifically was I was kind of looking at Meteor's champion pool and going, okay, how does this work? Because there's been a lot of sets, there's been a lot of Trundles, not a lot of Graves and these kind of guys. Now, we did see the Graves come out from Meteor here today. He has played it previously, but I want to see more than just Graves and Olaf. I want to see what else he can do and make sure that he's bringing a little bit more to that farm oriented style that the jungle meta just dictates that you have to have there for your team.
Yeah, and look, we talked about the big question mark as well for BLG, would they work, but also was, getting Zika in a downgrade or an upgrade. The jury is still out. We haven't quite figured out that one yet, but we are going to look at a couple of his highlights because, again, this game, he looks solid on the Twist of Fate, much better than game 1.
Definitely. And understood, where he needed to be. It looked like kind of the BLG as a whole understood what their game plan was and how they could react to BLG. Just a bit of a warm-up game number 1. Game 3 here took over. I mean, from the very get-go, getting a heap of kills for himself, setting BLG ahead, and being in prime position when we got to these mid to late game portions of the game to turn around when eStar were trying to get aggressive. Like you can see him here, zoning many members of eStar out of this fight. Also being able to, as we continue forward, ZS started trying to get picks onto the cannon, just initially shutting them down, so there was little that eStar could do to get back into this game.
Yeah, I think overall, BLG kind of made it work. They got the pieces to fit. It's, at the first game, it definitely looked like they were trying to put the triangle into the circle spots. It just wasn't kind of working out for them. But 6-1-11 on this Twisted Fate had a lot of presence around the map. Definitely got his bot and top lane in him. Yeah, I was going to say, just able to kind of get himself into a very high kill participation because he was the one who was, in tandem, obviously, with Meteor, was able to set up the map to be favorable for the rest of his lanes. He didn't have to be winning mid lane. He just had to be making sure the other lanes are winning. Exactly.
And I think we're going to continue to see a lot of experimentation and changing styles when it comes towards BLG, specifically when we have Coach Kim coming across from from T1 even, seeing what he's capable of doing and being able to grow the team in a lot of different facets is kind of his style. So I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do and how he's able to, especially after having worked with players like Faker, how his understanding of the mid lane is and how we can try and give that across to someone who's essentially a rookie. Zeke only came across in summer 2020, so I think big things from Zeke, hopefully, as this starts to go forward, and for BLG as a whole.
Yeah, and for eStars, like we said, lots to work on, but you've got a couple of games and you got Chinese New Year. This is not the impossible thing, but I want to kind of bring it back down to what we were talking very, very early on in the series of what is success for these teams. And for eStar, this doesn't feel like a failure, but it's definitely not 100% success. But I'm gonna have to stop my point very, very quickly there, as we do have an interview with our fantastic Wendy, so we're gonna send it over to her.
Hi guys, welcome to the interview, and this time we have invited Mark from BLG to join us after getting the victory. And so my first question is, actually for the split, you have entered into a new team and also play with Aiming as a bot duo. So I'm very curious about the current synergy together with Aiming. 那么首先恭喜你们获得本场比赛的胜利。那你们这个赛季也来到了一个全新的队伍，然后同时也是和 Aiming 组成了一个下路的双人组，所以想问一下，在现在和 Aiming 之间的一个默契程度怎么样呢？
就现在跟Aiming 的默契程度还需要更好的磨合，更需要更多的努力。就和他磨合的话，就感觉可能是两个路人吧。
Actually, I think we need more practices to improve our synergies. I think at this moment, we are kind of like play the solo ranks. We're not that good at the communication parts. So my next question, but definitely you guys show a very decent performance, especially in Game 2. And I think in the laning phase of Game 2, you guys just played so proactively and got a number of kills. So I'm very curious about your game strategy at that game. 那么其实你们今天表现已经很亮眼了，特别是第二局，其实从前期的对线期就非常的具有进攻性，然后你们也是在前期就是拿到了很多的人头，所以想问一下第二局前期的一个战术意图是怎么样的呢？
第二局的话，就是因为我们第一局就感觉大家都打得很怂，因为刚打就他们，反正我们就都不敢打嘛，然后第二局下来的时候，然后教练组就喷了一下我们，然后说你们这样打的话，我就给你们选后期阵容了。所以我们后面就调整了一下，然后说就第二局、第三局就来打架阵容，跟对面一直打架就行了。
Because I think in the Game 1 we didn't manage to play that well. We didn't do all the tries to find the opportunities to make the engagements. So after the Game 1, actually our coach team a bit scolded at us, and they told if you just play like this, we will just put some late game drops to you. So we changed a lot in terms of the play styles. So in both Game 2 and 3, we try to play more proactively and also do more team fights to get the victory. And also in Game 3, we have noticed that the opponent's team have chosen Shin as a support champion. So have you expect that? 那么其实，在第三局的时候，对面是选出了慎作为辅助。那其实当时在 BP 的时候，有没有预想到这个呢？
哦，胜这个英雄我们是有预选到的，然后觉得没什么关系，然后所以就放给对面的人，因为胜打日女是个不错的选择嘛。
To be honest, we have kind of aware of this and expect that because I think Shen is a very good pick to face against Leona, which is my champion. So and we think but we still think it is okay to open this champion to the opponent's team, and in the couple of days, we have seen so many support champions on the stage, like the Maokai, Leona, Shen. So, do you have any recommendations to the support champions, or which champions do you think is the tier 1 champs in the current meta? 那么接下来想问一下，其实，在最近这几天有登场过很多的辅助英雄，包括像什么大树啊，像雷欧娜，包括今天的圣。所以想问一下，你觉得在最近的比赛中，哪些英雄可能是比较适合的，或者说就推荐大家的，包括一些 T1级别的辅助英雄？
我觉得现在 T1级别的辅助有蛮多的吧，就比牛头啊，然后日女啊，还有加料这种啊，然后酒桶辅助，然后这些都是蛮不错的选择。然后其他的话，比如说 rank 当中小丑啊、青钢影这些啊，就反正这个版本辅助会很多，应该这版本的比赛应该会很精彩。
I think when the matches or when play on the stage, Alista or the Galio, Leona, there's so many champions that we can choose. And also in the solo rank, some champions, including like the Kamir, is also very good champions as well. I think there's so many choices for the support champs in the current meta. And of course, the matches will be so exciting to be watched. And my last question is, next game, you guys are going to face JD Gaming, and also they have a very strong bowlings as well. So do you have any preparations will we take? 那么最后一个问题，你接下来也是要面对京东嘛？他们的下路组合也是很强的，所以想问一下，会不会进行哪些特殊的准备呢？
感觉放轻松打就行了，因为京东的下路，然后他们的整体都是蛮不错的。然后我们也在磨合当中，我们也会尽量去打比赛，去找手感，去找我们的状态，然后会尽量去赢下他们。
Definitely we will try our best to make the improvements in facing JD Gaming's bowling, and also I think we need to improve our synergies. So definitely we will try our best to get the victory. And thank you, Mark, for joining us. And we're really looking forward for performance in the following matchups as well. And back to you guys.
Thank you so much, Wendy.